Hello, everyone, and welcome to our information session on the Youth Opportunities Fund. Today, we're going to talk about the Youth Opportunities Fund, the various grant streams offered, the outcomes we're trying to achieve through this fund called Priority Outcomes, how to determine if these grants are a good fit for your group and project. We'll also run through the basic steps on how to apply for a grant, and we'll go over the next steps and let you know where you can get additional support. We'll take about 30 minutes or so for the material, and then we'll finish with some time for questions afterwards. Feel free to use the chat to ask a question or get clarification at any time. The Youth Opportunities Fund, the YOF, is a program of the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and is funded by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. We invest $13.1 million annually in communities across Ontario. YOF provides grants and capacity building supports to grassroots groups, community-based organizations, and collaboratives. YOF prioritizes projects that focus on addressing the experiences of Indigenous, First Nation, Métis, or Inuit, and/or Black youth and families who continue to face systemic barriers and oppression. Systemic barriers are historically rooted and are embedded in present-day systems, practices, and laws, creating challenges for specific communities to access support and resources. YOF grants help to address these challenges. We will talk about grant streams next.
YOF offers three distinct grant streams: Youth Innovations, Family Innovations, and System Innovations. Each stream focuses on a specific group of people that can lead the work and for whom. Our grassroots stream, Youth Innovations and Family Innovations, each have two different grant types: test and scale. Youth Innovation grants support the work of grassroots groups led by groups of youth under 29 or youth adult partnerships or adult initiated. Family Innovation grants supports grassroots groups led by parents, guardians, and caregivers working to support parents, guardians, and caregivers who face systemic barriers. The System Innovation stream is a little different. It looks at systemic and structural barriers that harm the youth experience. This presentation will focus on the Youth Innovations and Family Innovation streams. We will, however, briefly cover System Innovation grants in the next slides. The System Innovation stream looks at systemic and structural barriers that harm youth experience. It's an opportunity for collaboratives to consider shifting their approaches and adopting new ways of working to implement lasting change at sectoral, local, community, or regional level. We invest in collaborative work that strengthens systems to improve how youth navigate and experience services, reimagine more unique and equitable access to supports, resources, and programs, involve youth in the creation of new processes and approaches to better meet their needs, reduce the impact of systemic barriers and oppression as a result of historical and current-day realities of Indigenous, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit, and Black youth. If you're considering applying for the System Innovation Grant, here are some requirements that collaboratives need to meet. Lead organizations must meet all eligibility criteria. Project aligns with priority outcome, readiness to lead change, reflect community served, engage youth in the process. Collaboratives need to demonstrate they are ready to lead change. As a collaborative, the following requirements must be met. The collaborative has the capacity to lead culturally responsive system change work that is youth-centered. There is a common goal, shared decision-making, and accountability to each collaborative member. This includes having clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and accountability for the project, including a lead organization. The collaborative and/or its members have a strong track record for serving youth who are the intended primary beneficiaries of the project. Community served should be reflected in the collaborative. Organizations in the collaborative also need to come from diverse sectors and backgrounds relevant to the systems they want to strengthen. This includes, but is not limited to, Indigenous and Black organizations, organizations led by and serving specific communities, grassroots groups, youth-led groups, system partners and/or institutions, community networks and/or leaders, or subject matter experts. The project should aim to engage youth in creating change for the following: youth between the ages of 12 to 25 with diverse identities and lived experiences who are facing systemic barriers, or up to 29 for those living with special needs, disabilities, mental health, and/or addictions. The suggested project should align with one of the priority outcomes, which we'll discuss later. Within the Youth Innovation and Family Innovation streams, we offer two types of grants: task grants and scale grants. These two options recognize that projects at different stages have different funding needs. With task grants, you can access up to $100,000 per year for 1 to 3 years, for a total of up to $300,000. Task grants are designed to help groups try out new ideas that have potential to make a positive impact on the lives of young people, research, learn, and understand more about specific topics or issues, bring youth together to discuss an issue and explore a new approach collectively. With scale grants, you can access up to $150,000 per year for 2 to 3 years for a total of up to $450,000. These grants offer an opportunity for more established groups to continue offering strong supports and programming to YOF beneficiaries and build on their existing impact. A project must be established and have been delivered successfully for at least 2 years to be eligible for the scale grant. During that time, it must have created demonstrable impact on the lives of participants, and the group is now looking to increase that community impact. Let's look at some of the key features of the grant program. First, the Youth Opportunities Fund is an outcome-based program. We fund projects that aim to achieve a specific outcome and create an impact in their chosen communities. We fund grassroots work, which is led by and for community members who share identities and lived experiences with those who will benefit from the projects. We also prioritize projects by and for Indigenous and Black communities. To support grassroots groups and organizations, we use an organizational mentor model. This is where an established not-for-profit, charitable organization, or a First Nation that meets OTF eligibility criteria partners with and mentors grassroots, unincorporated, or newly incorporated groups. Our evaluation team works with the grants recipients to help them track their project results against key metrics to help them advance their chosen priority outcome. Lastly, we offer capacity building supports that include group-based offerings such as summits, webinars, and other learning opportunities, customized one-on-one sessions that allow grassroots groups to go deeper into their own learning. Now we're going to talk about eligibility.
The Youth Opportunities Fund is committed to supporting communities who are experiencing systemic barriers. Specifically, we prioritize Indigenous and Black youth, parents, guardians, and caregivers who face complex, historic, and deeply rooted barriers to well-being. To do this effectively, we support projects led by youth, parents, guardians, and caregivers who share identities, experiences, and face the same systemic barriers as those who will benefit from the project. This led by and for principle is a requirement in all funding streams. Essentially, core group members should share the identities and lived experiences of the groups they choose to serve. This principle plays a key role in grassroots groups, developing and implementing solutions that respond to the unique needs, strengths, and experiences of the community, and providing appropriate support for those with similar experiences. For example, young Black professionals and university students from low-income families create a farming collective that harnesses their knowledge and skills to provide food security, employment, and education opportunities, and enhanced health for Black youth in their community. Our grants support young leaders and youth-adult partnerships for parents, guardians, and caregivers who have joined together to create a program or offer services to people in their communities. A unique design feature of YOF is that we fund unincorporated grassroots groups and small nonprofits with an annual revenue of $50,000 or less in each of the last 2 fiscal years. The group must exist independently of a larger organization, other not-for-profit, charitable organization, or municipality, university, school, religious institution, and or hospital. If a grassroots group is from a First Nation, the group cannot have more than 50% of its members as part of the band office or band council. Eligible groups include those led by Indigenous, First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and Black communities. If you don't see your group reflected in this criteria, please feel free to step away. However, you are welcome to stay and listen and share this information with your networks. Groups must meet the following requirements: reflect community served for all streams. Core group members, including board members, where applicable, reflect the identities and experiences of the youth or parents, guardians, and caregivers they are working with and for. And in the core group, all streams, at least 3 core members, more than 50% of the core group members are at arm's length relationship to each other. Youth or parents, guardians, and caregivers must make up more than 50% of the core group. The group is based in Ontario, and the work will benefit Ontarians. The group exists independently of a larger organization, and the group agrees to work with an organizational mentor. This slide covers the experience needed for scale grants and the required leadership structure for Youth Innovations grants. Please go to otf.ca/YOF for a full list of eligibility criteria for each grant stream. Note that groups can only apply for one Youth Opportunities Fund grant at a time. And if your group has an active Youth Opportunities Fund grant, you can only apply for funding if you are in the last year of your active grant. Next, we will talk about priority outcomes.
As mentioned before, YOF is an outcome-based program. Outcomes-based means that YOF is looking to invest in specific changes or outcomes. For Youth Innovation grants, applicants can select one of 5 priority outcomes that focus on specific population and/or communities. Projects must align with one outcome to be eligible for this grant stream. When considering if your project aligns with one of the outcomes, it's important to think about why your group wants to deliver your activities and what changes you're hoping to make. Adult groups with all members up to age 35 can apply if they're looking to advance the following: supporting youth in and/or leaving care, and/or involved in the justice system to navigate and access resources for well-being. There are 3 priority outcomes specific to Family Innovation Stream. Similar to the Youth Innovation Stream, all projects funded through the Family Innovation Stream must advance one priority outcome. Now we're going to talk about beneficiaries.
In your expression of interest, identify the primary beneficiaries of your project and their intersecting identities and lived experiences. As your core group completes your application, align your project with the primary beneficiaries named in the priority outcome you have selected. Check only those identities and lived experiences of the youth or PGCs that you are specifically looking to engage with, and you have designed your program to benefit. Your core group members should share the identities and lived experiences of your beneficiaries. We recognize that your beneficiaries may hold other identities and experiences that are critical to the design and delivery of your project. Now we will review the list of primary beneficiaries. We invest in groups that are experiencing multiple barriers to wellness due to a lack of support, histories of structural oppression, and marginalization. Primary beneficiaries include these identities and lived experiences carried by youth, parents, guardians, and caregivers. It's important to remember that an identity can be seen as a lived experience as well. Additionally, people carry more than one lived experience and identity, and we recognize that they commonly intersect. For the Family Innovation Stream, pay attention to the identities and lived experiences of PGCs themselves and/or of their children. When selecting the identities and lived experiences that your beneficiaries and core group members carry, consider these questions. How are you intentionally designing your program for them? And how are you centering youth or parents, guardians, and caregivers with these lived experiences in your programming, design, and approach? Notice where the primary beneficiary includes at risk of. This is intentional and allows for the inclusion of solutions that prevent at-risk communities from falling into an experience or system. We want to draw your attention to a few lived experiences and identities that are investment priorities for YOF. Prioritization means that we are especially interested in supporting communities and group leaders that carry these 5 experiences and identities. These specific priorities help us intentionally support youth and PGCs who share these lived experiences and identities. In care, leaving care, or at risk of contact with child welfare services. In conflict with the law, or at risk of being in conflict with the law. At risk of dropping out or who have dropped out of school. Living with disabilities or special needs. Two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and/or questioning, intersex, or asexual. If your group does not carry these identities and are not interested in delivering programming designed for these communities, we still invite you to apply. Next, we'll talk about organizational mentors.
An organizational mentor, or OM, provides administrative support, project mentoring, and financial accountability for projects carried out by grassroots groups. To apply for Youth Innovation or Family Innovations Grant, OMs and grassroots groups must agree to work together and sign the Organizational Mentor Grassroots Groups Collaborative Agreement. Organizational mentors play a crucial role in supporting grassroots groups by providing the necessary infrastructure, policies, and procedures. This role can be likened to that of a trustee, a platform, or a charitable home, but it requires a deep commitment to support the project deliverables and collaboratively throughout the life of the grant. Organizational mentors and grassroots groups work together with distinct roles and responsibilities. Both parties are deeply committed to the project and believe that working together can bring about many benefits. They work together to enhance their impact, their relationships with those they serve, and the quality of their work and project deliverables. Support the exchange of knowledge, experience, opportunities, and networks, and help the grassroots group build its capacity and strengthen its work. OMs need to be one of the following: a registered charitable organization, a nonprofit organization, including Métis and Inuit organizations that are registered or incorporated, including a charitable organization or foundation registered with Canada Revenue Agency, an organization incorporated as a not-for-profit corporation without share capital in a Canadian jurisdiction, a chartered community council operating under the Métis Nation of Ontario or a First Nations. OMs must also have a minimum of $250,000 in revenue in each of the last 2 fiscal years and meet other eligibility criteria. Once a grant application is approved, OMs take on the role of the grantee. As the grantee, they will be responsible for the project deliverables and management of the project funds as partners in their work with the grassroots group. Learn more about OMs by visiting the YOF website. Now we're going to discuss the YOF evaluation requirements. A grassroots group will be required to participate in measurement and evaluation activities with our support, such as administering survey tools provided by YOF to program participants. This evaluation work will help track progress towards your selected priority outcome, and it will help you learn about your program. Now we're going to discuss how to plan your application.
The Youth Innovations and Family Innovation stream involves a two-step application process. First, you'll complete and submit an expression of interest, an EOI. For this step, be sure to carefully review all EOI questions to ensure your responses are complete and accurate. Based on the received EOIs, we'll develop a short list of groups and let all applicants know the results usually about 4 to 6 weeks after the EOI deadline. If your group is shortlisted, you'll be invited to submit a formal grant application as a partner with an OM, along with the signed Organizational Mentor Grassroots Group Collaborative Agreement. Your organizational mentor will need to apply to the Ontario Trillium Foundation about 6 weeks after the EOI deadline. The grant application is the final step in the application process. This includes reviewing and updating some of your EOI responses and submitting a signed organizational mentor grassroots group collaborative agreement with the OTF-approved organizational mentor. You'll receive news of the status of your application about 5 weeks after the grant application deadline. Review the upcoming deadlines on otf.ca. Visit otf.ca for all resources about the Youth Opportunities Fund grants. This includes exploring the expression of interest for all grant streams, reviewing the project plan and budget, information about organizational mentors. Be sure to check out the expression of interest questions to help you complete your EOI and start looking for an organizational mentor as soon as you can. Subscribe to YOF's newsletter to get notifications directly to your inbox, or send an email to yof@otf.ca for more information. If your group is interested, we encourage you to connect and book time with a YOF program manager, and you can book time on our website. We have plenty of tools and resources also available on our website. Additionally, for those of you interested in learning more about our Youth Innovation Scale stream, we encourage you to sign up for upcoming webinars to help clarify what's required. We encourage you to review the EOI application tools. There is one specific to test and scale, and they have tips for each question and can offer you a guide to completing the online application. Also, take note of other funders that support youth-led work in the sector. Thank you for joining us today. We will now open the floor to Q&A.